Okay, welcome back. So we'll just get into it. So part 5, The Only Light in Gotham. This is Robin 130. Writer Bill Willingham, penciler John Proctor. Isn't John Proctor the name of that character in The Crucible? The one who sweated like a stallion when he touched
I
him?
don't know. I've
Okay.
not seen The Crucible.
Inkers, Rodney. Did you say I haven't seen it?
I have not.
You mean you haven't read it?
Sure. I don't know.
These
But I even
people.
said when I said I haven't seen it,
Okay,
like,
I'm
what if
looking
it's
for
not
a
a
new
movie?
co-host for part 3 War Games. Someone
And
that
once they
reads
know that you don't care
literature.
about the yellow people, then like good luck finding them.
Okay, inkers Roddy Ramos and Robert Campanella and color Sky Major. Spoiler comes face to face with Black Mass, so there's the reveal, just after he murdered Orpheus in her presence. Black Mass wants to know about the plan that Spoiler was talking about and tries to snatch her purse. After a brief struggle, I'm going to call that a purse. So it's like a satchel. But, anyways, after a brief struggle, Black Mass manages to take it from her and starts looking for something valuable in it. She manages to grab a small detonator and activates it, causing the satchel and its contents to blow up in a small explosion. The same that reaches Black Mass' face, hurting him and causing him to lose balance and orientation. Spora takes the opportunity and attacks Black Mass with all her energy and starts questioning him about his involvement in the gang war. Black Mass is seemingly unable to fight, but he surprises Spora by attacking her with a sharp piece of glass and stabbing it in her or through her right shoulder. Spora falls down and Black Mass beats her to a pulp. She tries to stand her ground and fight, but in the end, Black Mass grabs her from the neck and chokes her until she falls unconscious. Twice, I should say. After which, Black Mass decides to keep her alive as she might still be useful for him. In the meantime, Robin has stopped some street thugs and taken all the weapons from them, giving them word of advice to leave the streets and stay home for the remaining of the gang war. On his way to deliver the illegal weapons, Robin contacts Oracle and asks her if there is any other place that might require him, but she tells him that things are quiet at the moment. Robin then asks Oracle to connect him with his father to tell him the truth about their current situation. Robin calls Jack and arranges a meeting on the rooftop of their home. Black Mask has taken Spoiler to his hideout, taken her mask off, and tied her with chains to a wall. He has also prepared a series of torture tools in order to get all the information he can from her. Elsewhere, when Jack goes to the rooftop, he discovers that Tim has returned to being Robin, but Tim explains that the current situation needs him and that if he returned, it was because he values, or the values, sorry. If he returned, it was because the values that his father passed on to him. Jack finally agrees and tries to convince Tim to take him on a mission, but Tim has a better idea and gives Jack an address where they would meet later. Tim asks his father to take Dana with him as well. Stephanie recovers consciousness again after passing out several times already, and Black Mask tries to keep her awake this time so she can speak the truth he wants her to hear. However, after being punished beyond her limits, Stephanie resists and keeps a defiant attitude against him. Elsewhere, Jack, Drake, and Dana arrive at the East End Clinic where they meet with Tim, who is waiting for them in Cities. Tim takes them inside the clinic and introduces them to Leslie Tompkins, the head doctor of the clinic. Jack and Dana offer all the help they can on the dire situation the city is in right now, and Tim is forced to leave because of his other obligations. Some hours later, Black Mask has tortured Stephanie to the limit of human endurance, and she can't stand the pain any longer. Black Mask Black Mask mocks her for being part of the Bat Group as she is weak and unworthy of it. He also makes hurtful remarks about her actual role in the vigilante group. Stephanie can't stand anymore and she gives up holding information from him. Black Mask then asks who the undercover man working for Batman on the games was, and Stephanie reveals that it was Orpheus and that the whole plan is destroyed now that he was murdered by Black Mask. However, Black Mask has something in mind that would make Orpheus still useful for him. Okay, well,
Oh boy.
I know. So it's Black Mass. Okay. Here's the reveal. But the reveal for me came off very anticlimactically. Was it better to reveal him at the beginning of this issue? Or should it have been at the end in a sort of would you believe the kingpin way at when he slit Orpheus's throat? Because here it just was like, well, he's suddenly on the page and it's not like dun dun dun. It's just something has happened between the
And
two.
he like says his name too, like just in case, like
Yeah.
me, Black Mask.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, and again, not in a "Would you believe Kingpin," which is a classic line, but yeah, I mean, what do you think about holding it off here and not at the end of the previous issue?
I would have done it as the cliffhanger, yeah.
Okay,
It would have built more anticipation and stuff like that.
yeah, almost. instead of having, I guess, Stephanie's shocked face with the blood splurting, if Black Mass had come out of the shadows or something and revealed that it was him, I think that would have
Mhm.
been interesting. So now we can talk about the Tim and Jack conversation on the roof. So thoughts on this conversation?
I was very surprised that as Tim's talking about his motivation for being Robin again, there was a key thing missing from the conversation. I'm going to see if you can guess what it is before I say it.
About what happened at school?
Yeah, he was in a school shooting and the girl that he was dating died. Like, not really in his arms, but like he was like doing chest compressions. And like, I am really surprised that that didn't come up because, like, if he's explained to his dad why he had to be Robin again, being like, I had a friend die in my arms. I was in a school shooting and I couldn't do anything. Like, it's very weird. And it's also very weird that, like, Tim, like I said, there was a lot of not dealing with things in this crossover. Like, we're talking about Orpheus and how, like, his death is going to get overshadowed by Stephanie. But even, like, Tim, he's, like, not acknowledging the death of Darla, who is not his best friend, and like they weren't like about to elope or anything like that, but she was someone that like he was going out on dates with and hanging out with in school. Like that was a friend, that was someone in his life who died in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he's telling his dad, like, I think that that experience is part of what drove him to be Robin again. And I'm surprised he didn't. I think that that would have sold Jack too. Like somebody died, and I can stop more people from dying. I'm just surprised that the conversation didn't go there.
It reminds me of a conversation you and I had while inclining up a roller coaster, where you asked me, what if I died on this roller coaster? And I said, please don't. Like, that would be one of the worst things, probably the worst thing to happen in my life, if one of my best friends that I love died in front of me. And you're like, but I hope you could be happy in the. Why are we talking about it? Yeah. Do you remember that conversation? I think it was Loch Ness that we were
I
clicking
know.
up.
Click, 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 click. What if I died here?
Like, you're nuts. Get away with that. No, that is, yeah, very interesting. I feel like he didn't need many reasons to explain why he was back. Like he could just gestured and like, look at this city, and this is why I'm coming back. But you're absolutely correct that that's an egregious.
There's trauma that he's not. There's a lot of trauma that people are not dealing with in this. Like, man, the Bat family is a mess right now. Like,
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought that, like, Selena, the hardened criminal, is, like, one of the most emotionally stable people in this entire crossover?
That's accurate. I had to think about that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I said that without thinking about it, but now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, Babs, Dick, Catalina, Tim, Bruce. Cass is doing okay, more or less, I'd say.
Except for her relationship with Babs, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, Catwoman or Onyx, maybe. Or
Oh,
Orpheus, maybe. But yeah.
Orpheus ain't doing so well now.
Yeah. I found it interesting when Jack was like, I'm coming with you. I thought, that seems foolish, but I do like Tim saying, like, oh, I just have to worry
Hey,
about you. But brings them to some place, brings both Jack and Dana to a place where they can actually.
he's a dad who's worried about his son.
Yeah.
I'd buy him wanting to do that,
Yeah.
but like it is foolish. But like as a father,
Yeah.
like I could see why he would want to do that.
And obviously, we do get into, I don't know. Now, obviously, you can kind of pull back the curtain at the time, but the whole Stephanie thing. Okay. So
Oh boy.
if they had plans to, because this seems to be his whole shtick, Black Mask, he's all about torture. It's been men up to
Oh
this
boy.
point, right? He leaves Kosovo, because I think that's her name. The Russian with the glass eye. He leaves her alone. But now we really we're pushing it. A lot of this stuff happens off screen, all of the tortures really, but it seems like we get closer to on screen with Steph. So I've got
Yeah.
multiple questions here. So first of all, do you feel like, because I felt like Stephanie was really holding her own against Black Mask, and even leading up to her getting to Orpheus's hideout, we saw how competent she was against all the gangs, and at one point says, she mutters like, he should never have fired me, because yeah, she was really holding her own. She hold her own against Black Mask. Is this a way to give her a win before she's really losing? And then would you also consider this whole situation sexist and misogynist because of what goes
Yes.
down? Okay.
Easily, yes. You have a woman being chained up and tortured by a male villain, and she's at one point she's begging for him to stop. She's like begging for mercy. Can you see them doing this scene with Batman or Robin? Can you imagine Tim like begging in this situation and crying the same way as like Black Mask is like, you're weak? Like, you're weak is like a thing that a villain would say in a monologue, but just it's very gratuitous, and you can't look at this scene in a vacuum. You have to look at the scene in the overall context of it being 2004 and Sue Dimney getting like raped by Dr. Light and murdered by Jean Loring over an identity crisis, and the fact that unfortunately DC is still very predominantly male back then. So like there is a lot of context to this. And the fact that this is being done to Stephanie, and this entire storyline is very much a train of everyone poop on Stephanie. I would have said shit, but like, because the whole time it's like, you're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not worthy, and let's chain her up to a wall and torture her with like power tools as she begs for it to stop and cries. It's a lot.
I would say even I try not to compare traumatic events, but it seems even worse than Longbow Hunters too, because that's really the only other like
Yeah.
torturing scene that I can think of.
And I'm
Now
trying to
here's
remember how
yeah.
much there was. I'm trying to remember how much of this there was in Act Three, because like I'm like, is this all the Stephanie torture there was, or was there more? I was trying to remember, but
She
on
breaks
the
out,
DC
doesn't she?
boards at the time, people like the DC boards were very sexist and misogynistic back then, as we discussed with the Nightwing stuff. But even they were like, "Whoa, this is kind of twisted, guys." Like even this was making them go like, this is not really necessary.
So what is the alternative? What could have been done? Because if Black Mask is the villain that you've chosen, and this is his penchant, and he requires information, extracting information from Stephanie. What is the alternative to this then?
There's ways to write a torture scene that could have given Stephanie more dignity. We have like torture scenes in James Bond movies but it's like somewhat dignified for Bond. Yeah, tie Stephanie to the Goldfinger chair and like with the laser going up her like, do you expect me to talk, Blast Mass? No, Miss Spoiler, I expect you to die. Um, it's the way that the scene is framed. Don't have Stephanie crying. Don't have her begging for it to stop. Have her hold her own, like while she's being tortured, like to like prove her worth. Like, ask yourself the question: if this was Batman, if this was Green Arrow, if this was, like Nightwing, how would this scene be written? And the answer is not like this.
I okay. It's very complicated. So I don't like the scene. So
It
I don't
is.
want anyone to think
This,
that,
this is
yeah.
this is very nuanced. Yeah.
Yes. I don't want anyone to think that I like the scene at all.
Uh,
But I
what
just
are you
have I
about to
have
tell
I
me?
have some things. Well, first of all, I do think that's why I think that she fights well with Black Mass. They are trying to balance it. I'm not saying it's successful. She does have some snarky comments like in the first half, I guess, of the torture, and then she's kind of done with it. Now, the only thing I'm just thinking realistically here, that because you don't want her crying, and obviously I think the weak thing that's coming after her sex, I think, more so than someone else's. So I do agree that there would be a
And the
distinction
weak
if
thing
there were
isn't
men
in the
there.
vacuum. The weak thing is after Batman said you're not worthy of being Robin,
Right. Yeah.
and we have like a whole War Games Act one of her being like, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy.
Yeah, which Black Mass would not have known about. So that's almost like playing into, it's almost too much information that he
Right,
shouldn't have.
but it's an extra thing for the readers. Like the readers have been
Yeah.
fed a steady diet of like Stephanie sucks, and we're going to like, toss her around the room like a rag doll.
Yeah. I feel like Tim would be similar in this situation because these kids, I'm just going to keep using that word, are not trained in resisting torture. I mean, there's only so much you can take. And I feel like anyone's going to say, like, please stop. I'd have to flip back to the previous two bosses because that one guy was with his eyes being pried open. He's like, not my eyes, not my eyes. So, I mean, people are going to freak out. So that's like my only kind of disagree because I just don't know. I don't know that you could put anyone in the situation and they're not going to react the same way. So that's why I wonder what other situation could we have had that this is just not happening, period.
You could torture Stephanie, but like do it in like a way where like she's has more dignity.
Well, that's what you say, but I don't know. She just refuses to give up the information.
Yeah. And I mean, look at Princess Leia and Rey in Star Wars, and like when they got tortured.
Didn't Princess Leia give up the information?
No, no, she lied. And actually, Leia's example was not a good one because she her torture was off screen. Like they have the like, little like robot need whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
And then like the door like closes.
Yeah.
And then like office, she's resistant to the mind probe.
And perhaps that's what should have happened. I mean, maybe that's the answer, is that it should have been off screen. He has the information and that's it.
Yeah.
But I feel like what you're asking is unrealistic.
Maybe.
And again, I just need to defend myself and say I don't like this. I'm just, like what could have happened.
If I mean, if I would have had like 8 hours to sit down, then I could have like shown you what could have happened instead or whatever.
That's fine. I mean, this was
yeah.
not a question that I had prepared to ask until we started having this conversation. So yeah. I don't blame you at all. I'm just saying like what could have happened. I think about that a lot in terms of rape scenes and sexual assault.
But it's also like, maybe you don't need to have a torture scene. Like there's other ways to like there's other ways to move the story along, like we're not without choices and options.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's always probably an alternative. Yeah. Any other thoughts on part 5?
Let me look at my notes. Nope, we covered it all. The Jack and Tim and the Stephanie torturing.
Okay.
I have a more funny note about the next part. I led to my notes, and it's just 2 words.
Okay.
And there's a story behind those 2 words.
Okay. Part 6, Collateral Damage, Batgirl number 56. Writer Dylan Horrocks, penciler Mike Huddleston, inker Jesse Delberdang, and colorist Jason Wright. The streets of Gotham City are a war zone. A lone woman walks through the fires and corpses as seen through a sniper's crosshairs. Batgirl swings in and saves this woman from getting shot and angrily tells her that there's a curfew and she has to stay inside until morning. The woman insists that she got off work late and she needed to feed her cats. Batgirl takes down the sniper, who explains that he's freelancing for the Moxons. They told him to hold down the street. The Batgirl tells him that that Moxon is dead, and the sniper says he doesn't care who's paying him. She asks if the sniper has seen Spoiler, and he says that he hasn't, and she sees 6 notches carved into the windowsill representing the sniper's kills, and she brutally knocks him out. Black Mask gloats over the body of Orpheus, whom he just murdered. He takes off Orpheus's helmet and finds a transmitter inside that will give him access to Batman. Hush shows up to talk to Black Mask. Black Mask says Hush had one chance to join him, and he threatens to kill Hush, but Hush tells him not to be stupid and explains that he has a proposal. Hush agrees to stay out of the power struggle if Black Mask will let Hush be the one to destroy Batman. And to show his good faith, Hush offers to give Black Mask the location of the Batcave, which, if you want to destroy Batman, I don't know why you would give that information away. Batgirl visits Tom.
You'll see, because there's a twist.
Oh boy. And actually,
yes, indeed.
Okay. Batgirl visits the Tompkins clinic to ask if Leslie Tompkins has seen Spoiler. Leslie tells Batgirl that she does not have time for this and angrily snaps at her for perpetuating the cycle of violence. Batgirl tells Leslie that this is not their fault and Batman didn't start this. I didn't start the fire. Lynx arrives with the ghost
He
dragons to
made the
take
war
over.
games and they are real insane.
Yeah, to take over the
Batman
clinic.
wrote the war
They
games.
announce that it will be their exclusive field hospital and they threaten to harm Leslie when she refuses to cooperate. Batgirl battles the entire street gang single-handedly. Lynx tells her underlings to distract Batgirl while she enters, quote, the trance of the ghost dragon, end quote. They swarm Batgirl with katanas and begin to actually land blows on her. Lynx attacks Batgirl much more powerfully than she normally does. This fight takes him inside the clinic, and Lynx's henchman tries to stab Batgirl in the back with a sword, but Batgirl spins around at the last moment. The henchman accidentally chops Lynx in the back of the head, apparently killing her. Batgirl scares the other ghost dragons away with their leader down. Leslie is outraged and tells Batgirl to pass on a message to Batman. Leslie says that Batman has finally succeeded in turning her clinic into a morgue and then shouts at Batgirl to get out. First and foremost, is Batgirl responsible for the death of Lynx since she saw the guy coming and switched positions?
So that's interesting that DC Wikia, that's their interpretation of what happened. Because when I read it, I saw it as Cass had Lynx pinned. This guy came at them with the sword, and Lynx not realizing that the guy was coming at the sword, she grabbed Cass and switched their positions so that it was Lynx basically trying to like get the dominant position. And she basically accidentally like Green Goblin herself. Like she put herself in the line of the sword. Like,
no, I understand.
Yeah, open it up on your Kindle. Like, let's look at this.
Well, because it does seem like Cass sees the guy coming, so that's why
Yes, Cass sees the guy coming, but then Lynx switches their positions. I mean, I don't know what Cass's plan was, like to jump out of the way or whatever, but like Cass is not the person to like use a human shield.
No, which is why I found it shocking.
Yeah, which is maybe that was my brain like trying to rationalize what I was seeing, but I'm trying to open it up on DC right now. But like I searched Batgirl, there was like all these different series. It's like okay, let's see. Do Batgirl.
He sees.
Yeah, okay, so look at Lynx. Yeah. Look at the panel. Lynx is like making a sound and like it looks like Lynx like rolls Cass over.
Yeah, I guess because Cass was distracted and then Lynx takes the opportunity.
Yeah, like that's yeah. So I don't think Cass is responsible here at all.
Okay. Okay. Donovan approves of your answer, I'm sure.
I would hope so. Like oh
he always gets on me for being too hard on Cass this way.
Oh.
So Leslie, has she finally reached her last straw? Is her blame well placed on the Batman?
Oh boy. Yeah, like reading this in the context of what I know is coming with Leslie, I'm like, oh yeah, they were seeding this. They were seeding this. This is Leslie Tompkins can annoy me sometimes as a character. Cause like I like her when she's like the nut when she's kind of like Bruce's mother figure, but she's Bruce's mother figure in the way that like she doesn't enable him like Alfred does or Jim Gordon. Like she loves Bruce and supports him, but she does not like the Batman stuff. But sometimes that's just like taken up to a degree. And there's issues in No Man's Land where like she really got on my nerves where she's like, Batman, Mr. Zaz, the murderer is not the monster. You are because you punch Mr. Zaz in the face for murdering people. And like Batman, like Killer Croc may like chop people into little bits, but you punched him, and like that makes you even worse. Like Leslie's kind of right in this case because like yeah, Batman did like make a war game, but which by the way, now that Batman knows that Stephanie did it by looking at the files, like there was no point in Selena telling Leslie. Leslie did not take that information to Batman. Leslie took that information to the adoption records. So
does Leslie know that Batman was behind the war games though?
Isn't that what Selena told Leslie?
Oh, you
She's
mentioned,
like,
yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
know that she said Stephanie
because like
was
her.
responsible, but did she say that it was Batman's plan and Stephanie took it? I just can't
I
remember.
feel like she would have to in order
Okay.
to give the full like context for
Yeah.
like Steph. How is Stephanie responsible? Because it would beg too many follow up questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Leslie is just, I mean, you mentioned No Man's Land. I was certainly thinking about that. Like, she's just been pushed every bad event, it seems. And so now it's just
Yeah,
like she's gonna break and do something that's out of character, which I suppose she does.
yeah,
Is it reasonable then that what she does? Maybe I can't ask that yet. I don't.
no,
You still say
no.
no.
Well,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
so it depends on is the retcon reasonable? Because they later retcon it because like it was just so horrible that they were like, never mind. The retcon's reasonable. The retcon feels like something Leslie would have done. The original, as it was written and as the writers and editors intended, was way out of character.
Okay. Okay.
And
Then I
man,
am
I
concerned.
mean, I don't know how you're going to cover this because like it's not a Barbara. Like, do you just do a special
I
episode for
guess I
War
just,
Crimes?
yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a modern tale, I think, for a little bit. I can't remember when Birds of Prey are coming out. I don't know if that's September or not. So, I mean, I
Oh
have 3 months,
wow, is
right?
Barbara not going to have a monthly book for a little bit?
At the time, no. Because I don't think Birds
Wow,
of Prey were roster.
wow.
That could be wrong, yeah. And then my final question, why does Leslie, it felt like she hesitated in telling Batgirl that she hasn't seen spoiler. Because, yeah, Batgirl asks, have you seen her? And there's like a panel, like a beat. And she's like, no, I don't have time for that.
I feel like that's her being like annoyed. Like, are you
Okay.
serious right now?
Yeah,
Like,
like that's what you're asking. I see.
like I have people like bleeding everywhere. Like, and you're like asking where your little like girlfriend is. Like
Yeah.
go away.
And it's
I
always
like,
Cat. Like Cass
uh,
is the one to look for in Act One, too.
yeah, yeah. I thought Leslie was gonna yell at her to like read a book like Barbara did a few months ago.
Yikes, yeah.
Like I'm
Read the scene around you. Yeah. Yeah.
Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh yes, let's bring that back, shall we? What other thoughts do you have on part 6?
I have two notes
Okay.
on this, or two words on my note thing for this issue. Lynx beheaded. So first of all, what do you know about Lynx, the character before this?
I've seen her before. I don't remember where I have seen her. I don't know if it was
Okay,
Birds of Prey, but I've seen her before. Yeah.
so this is the death of a longtime character. Because she debuted in the first Robin miniseries by Chuck Dixon and Tom Lyle, like before Tim got his own ongoing series. Like when Tim was like going around the world to train, Lynx was one of like the students that trained with him at one of the dojos, but then like Tim went down his path and Lynx went down hers and became a criminal. And like at one point she was working with King Snake and like she lost her eye because like she failed him, like and didn't take down Robin. So she's kind of been like a dark mirror to Tim for a little while, and she didn't fight Tim that often, but like she was just kind of a reoccurring like teenage girl villain in the Bat titles, martial artist. So this is a big deal, her dying. So the next time we see Lynx after this is after Infinite Crisis at the beginning of 1 year later. Um, Tim I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been years since I read the issue, but if I recall, the issue is like Tim is somewhere and he like wakes up with Lynx's like dead body, freshly dead body, freshly dead body in front of him. And he's like, "Oh my god, Lynx is dead and I'm being framed for her murder." So do you have any follow-up questions to that before I keep going?
I guess I'm confused how she's dead here. If she then is
Yes.
dead again.
That is a very good question. So DC killed Lynx twice within 2 years and forgot. This created a mess because fans were like, I thought Lynx was already dead. So this was part of it's funny you say, is Cass responsible for Lynx's death? I should have said, well, which time? Because
I wouldn't have gotten it. So
because Cass was kind of responsible for her death the second time because that was during the Cass as an evil supervillain era. And like Cass, like I don't remember if Cass directly killed Lynx or just had like the League of Assassins do it, but like Lynx dies, and it's like part of Cass's plan to like turn Tim evil, which they later retcon. Oh, actually, Deathstroke put Cass under an evil like serum, and that's why she did that. So there's a Batgirl miniseries around 2008, right before Batman RIP, that ties up all of the continuity about the Cass being evil arc to kind of like bring it home. And there is a long page of exposition. It's like just a super long page of like big speech balloons. And one of the things that they had to tie up was how did Lynx die in War Games, and then like just show up as a dead body, freshly dead body here. And someone like Nightwing says, after Lynx died in War Games, the League of Assassins underwent a mystical ceremony to bring her back to life so they can kill her again for like this plan. So I'm just imagining being Lynx. You're like fighting Cassandra Cain, then all of a sudden your head's chopped off, and then you wake up and you're in front of the League of Assassins and they brought you back to life, and you're like, hooray! And then they just immediately kill you again. Like immediately, like a second.
Pretty convoluted plan.
I don't even know why they needed Lynx for that. It's like just get it. I mean, I know why, because they had to explain the continuity error, but like it's a very, very stupid line. I don't want to derail us too much. I'm gonna see if I could find that line, but it was like they brought her back to life to kill her. Batgirl. It was this miniseries. I'm going to talk a little bit while I'm doing this so we don't have too much dead air. Okay, I'm on the page. They're talking about like, man, yeah, they're explaining a lot of stuff. They're like, Cass took ESL classes because they had to explain like why she was doing these villainous monologues. Okay, Cassandra won command of a league chapter through trial by combat and solidified her hold by offering the death of another. Oh wait, no, that was Nissa. Where's the part where they talk about Lynx? Okay, there we go. She had the League's mystic restore Lynx, dead since the gang war, then killed her again, put her in a Batgirl costume, and framed me for her murder.
I think you skipped the part about the Batgirl costume.
I forgot about the Batgirl costume.
So Tim wakes up and thinks Cass is dead?
I mean, I think he takes off the mask and he sees that it's Lynx.
Oh. And this is in the main Infinite Crisis story? Or this is a tie-in?
This was in 1 year later after Infinite Crisis. Do you remember like 1 year later after like during Infinite Crisis? Yeah, so this is going to happen in the Robin title. Well, okay, the Lynx murder part 2 happens in the Robin title, and then we have a Batgirl miniseries in 2008 that like ties it all up. So is Cass? So to answer your question, is Cass responsible for Lynx's death?
I guess no.
Not this time, but the second time, yes.
Interesting. So now Donovan will be both overjoyed and upset with you.
So that was my note. Lynx beheaded, and I'm like, oh man, yeah. I remember all of this, and I remember all this controversy.
They should hire DC. Should have a continuity expert.
They kind of do.
Well, I think they're better now than they were, but
yeah. They're kind of two people, but like DC is just such a big company with a lot of like departments.
Any other thoughts on part 6?
Nope.
Okay. Part
Don't
7,
lose your head.
Betrayal.
Oh, written by Donovan Grant.
Indeed. Catwoman 35. Writer Ed Brubaker. Penciler Paul Gulacy. Inker Jimmy Palmiotti. And colorist Lori Cronenberg. Stephanie Brown recovers consciousness once again and finds herself bloody, beaten, and wasted at Black Mask's secret hideout. She manages to free herself from the handcuffs on her left wrist, but she passes out due to the pain caused by trying to free her right hand. Catwoman patrols the east side of Gotham and stops random acts of violence and crimes in progress. Her wrist communicator rings and she answers, thinking that Harley might have a lead on Spoiler's location. However, from the other side of the line is Oracle, who answers and tells Catwoman about an attack on the east side. In order to get Catwoman to go, Oracle suggests that Batman doesn't want Catwoman to be a part of it, giving Selina all the motivation to go and stop the attack, which I thought was very dumb, but we'll talk about it. Oracle tells the news to Batman, and he sets the next step of his plan in motion by taking over the airwaves of the entire city, including internet networks, radio frequencies, and even
the internet is a global system of interconnected computer networks that uses the internet
Ziggy, stop.
to communicate between
Ziggy, stop.
It is a network
Ziggy,
of networks that
you activated my Echo Dot somehow.
Academic, business, and government networks.
Ziggy, stop. I don't know how, but whatever you said activated my Echo Dots.
I don't even know. Oracle tells the news to Batman, and he sets the next step of his plan in motion by taking over the airwaves of the entire city, including internet networks, radio frequencies, and even Oracle's main system. Hashtag Batjerk rides again. Batman speaks and addresses to the Gotham City. Batman speaks and addresses the Gotham City Police Department, giving every officer available on the streets instructions on how to proceed. The great majority of the GCPD follow Batman's instructions, while people like Commissioner Akins, James Gordon, and Oracle don't approve of Batman's actions. Catwoman arrives at the place of the attacks on the East End and confronts Vicious and Pistolera. Catwoman tells the police officers that are trying to deal with them to follow Batman's instructions while she stays and deals with the Ravens. Remember them? Neither Vicious nor Pistolera are a match for Catwoman, and they are easily defeated. Pistolera takes a chance and shoots an oil truck, causing a big explosion that destroys the nearby buildings. Catwoman is distracted and she tries to contact Oracle while the Ravens escape. Oracle recovers her system and sends some fire engines to the area. Meanwhile, Stephanie recovers again and manages to get on her feet after freeing herself from Black Mass torture chamber. Stephanie knows that she must warn Batman about Black Mass and the murder of Orpheus, but instead she decides to go to the East Side Clinic and tell it all to Leslie Tompkins, who would later get the word to Batman, or so she hopes. Oracle contacts Batman and tries to make him reveal his actual plans to her, but Batman just closes the communications with her. What's going on? Batman drives the Batmobile towards the hill and talks to Orpheus's intercom, telling him that he's going towards him to set the next plan in motion. However, since Orpheus is dead, the whole information is being listened to by Black Mask, who thinks about posing as Orpheus on Batman's plan. Okay, first question, why does Batman feel the need to manipulate Catwoman to protect her own territory? It seems like she's plenty motivated already to protect her territory.
Yeah, that was stupid. That was, she fights better when she's mad at me. Like, it shows that you don't have faith in her, that, like, you don't think that, like, she's going to fight for her own territory. You think she cares more about you than her own, like, territory and the people? Because within the Ed Brubaker Baker Catwoman run, that was her neighborhood. That was, like, she was very protective over this place and the people and, like, was kind of becoming her own hero. I think Batman just, it's his ego. And, like, he doesn't want to, like, and he doesn't like asking for help. So this is his way of asking for help without, like, asking for help.
Yeah, I was sort of squinting at it. I mean, the fact that he trusts Tarantula to be more confident than Catwoman, I just feel like, what's going on here? It was just like, let's leave the drama and just ask what you need to get for her to get done and then have it out there. We don't have time for this stuff. Yeah. Why does an Oracle question what Catwoman knows about Steph, given the way Catwoman first answers the call? Because if someone picked up and said, did you find Spoiler or whatever, and then I would be like, what about Spoiler? Why doesn't Oracle question that?
I guess it's a blind spot.
Okay.
Like, because Oracle is very, very tired and overworked and, like, you know, throwing darts at her Catalina dartboard, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is called betrayal, which we all, I do love that word. And
betrayal.
And yeah, all that. Is the betrayal, do you think, what is it? Do you think it's when Batman hijacks Oracle's system, or is there something else going on? What would you say is the betrayal in this issue?
Let me see. Probably.
Let me count the ways.
Yeah, I was like, the fact that this issue existed, but actually, I don't have a problem with, like, this issue.
He betrays me not. Yeah.
Yeah. The hijacking, probably, that was a very, I mean, and at least the issue frames it as, like, Batman is called out on the issue. The comic doesn't portray it as, like, isn't Batman right for doing this? Like, People are mad at him and upset with him, rightfully so. And when he does it, it's at the expense of, like, Barbara was not able to communicate with Selena during the mission during this. She's like, oh, sorry, I was offline. It's like,
Yeah. People are in
it's
danger because
imperative for Oracle. Like, what if Oracle had something important to tell Selena that could have helped her or saved her life? Like, Batman doing this is very dangerous. And this, again, it's interesting going back and reading this in the context of knowing what's going to happen, because there is a big change in Barbara and Bruce's relationship at the end of this storyline. They have a new status quo going for forward after this.
Okay, well, I was gonna, so I don't want to know what is.
No, and you'll get to it, but like, I see how they're building to it here, and I'm like, oh, this makes sense because of what they did with Barbara after the storyline.
So I did wonder, if you were Barbara, would you call it quits with Batman after this whole thing is over?
I would seriously reevaluate it. I would be severely tempted to, yes.
Yeah.
Because you are like hindering, like, you cannot be in control of what I am doing. Like, and it's at the expense of my agent's life. What if Huntress and Black Canary needed to get in touch with her for something? This is not okay.
I fully agree. Obviously, people know that I'm not objective in this matter, but I think that it was, really bad when
I don't know if I would 100% call it quits, but there would be like hey, we are about to have a divorce if we don't work on this right now, because I am on the verge of divorce.
Yeah. They need to, sit down for sure. I mean, I was really upset I think this is just an example of bat entitlement. Like, I'm going to do whatever I feel is necessary, and I'm going to take over this particular system. And it's not the first time that he's done that, but I think each time it's like a very intimate invasion, because this is this is her now, and she has her fingers in across the DC universe, so it's not just like she's working with Gotham right now. Like, there are definitely probably other calls that she's helping with too. So it's just really short-sighted of him. For just a short there's Ravens, you've got Catwoman and Barbara as Oracle, so it's definitely like a little mini Birds of Prey reunion, kind of like a mini Birds of Prey issue. And just a question, I don't want to be spoiled, but Robinson Park comes up. Is Catwoman still in is Poison Ivy still in Robinson Park at this point in time?
I don't remember her being in Robinson Park at this point in time. That was a No Man's Land thing.
Okay. Well, I wondered if she was.
I know that she's gone back there before. Like, I think there was it Joker War or something, or like one of those James Tynion arcs where I think she was like underground in Robinson Park in the last few years.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think Poison Ivy shows up in this.
Okay. Yeah, because he says like we need to keep pushing all these people over there, and I thought, oh, maybe Poison Ivy is going to convince her to work with him. I guess that's too interesting of a story for them to tell. Any other comments?
I mean, keep her away from this. All this misogyny going around. Like, who knows what they'll do to Poison Ivy? They'll like probably cut her foot off and feed it to her.
Any other comments on part 7?
No.
Okay. Then the finale is part 8, Orpheus in the Underworld, and we're going to have it out just like we did in part 5.
Oh boy.
Batman 6.
This is a thick one.
Oh, and I do wonder with some of these things that are going down, never mind.
Oh.
I changed my mind about what I was going to say, because I wondered if they were kind of keeping some of the heavier stuff for titles that weren't Robin and Batgirl, but the torture scene happens in Robin, so I decided myself. But I feel like with Batgirl
and a beheading scene in Batgirl.
Yeah, so
but it's okay. The League of Assassins sewed her head back on.
Yeah, and she wears a little choker to hide the scar. Writer Bill Willingham, penciler Kinsun Lowe, inker Aaron Soud, colors Tony Avina. This is a short synopsis. Black Mask disguises himself as Orpheus. Boy, is that a way to say that. And as such is forced to battle Zeiss, who was sent to kill Orpheus and other crime bosses by grief-stricken Henry Akista. When Batman arrives on the scene, he gets the better of Zeiss, but is distracted by a large explosive planted by the assassin, which he must defuse. As he does, Black Mask, the faux Orpheus at this point, deliberately allows Zeiss to escape because he could use him. Through Onyx, he arranges, i.e. Black Mask, arranges for the transportation of a large machine for dispersing gases, though she doesn't know what it's about, and then listens in as Batman gives his allies and police their orders for a final showdown with the gangs in Robinson Park. And I will say that Onyx gets browbeaten by Batman because she returns and he's like, don't leave Orpheus again. Okay, so this says that Black Mask disguises himself as Orpheus. So let me speak plainly. Black Mask cuts off Orpheus's face and attaches it to his skull. Okay.
Wasn't some of that prosthetics though? Like he cut off the face.
Well, he does have to. Yeah, he does have to use some mold to make it work. But I mean, the base of it is true. So I'm already upset that Orpheus is dead, and then I'm watching this happen. I'm reading this, and I am absolutely horrified because. And I texted Donovan. I was like, Donovan, I have a serious and weird racism question for you because this literally feels like blackface.
Yeah.
And then you got this white man like doing this, and I just feel like it's really, really bad.
And
so we've not only had the torture
that Black Mask is white because he wears the mask, but he's a white man.
He is a white man, yeah. So we not only had this torture, which I was like prepared for. Not to say that it like lessened the impact, but this one I was like not prepared for. I don't think anyone has ever told. Like I said, I was shocked that Orpheus was dead, but this was like I can't believe that they put this on page. So thoughts, your personal thoughts, and then what went down online? Like what were people's reactions? Were they picking up that this was like really racist, that this was happening?
They weren't picking up that this was racist, but like there was a lot of, how does Batman not know that this is black, that this is Black Man? Like, because if Nightwing died and like Joker dressed up as Nightwing, Batman would recognize that this wasn't Nightwing. If it was Alfred, he would recognize that it wasn't Alfred. But like now, that's not a fair comparison entirely because Alfred and Nightwing are two of his closest allies that he's like had this intimate relationship with for years, an intimate partnership. Orpheus is more new. He doesn't know him as well, but even still, this kind of speaks to the racism of it in that, like, you know, you have the one black character in the Bat family. Not only does he die in a way that doesn't have agency, but the villain disguises himself as Batman. And to add more disrespect, Batman doesn't know this person well enough to even recognize that this is not his friend and ally. This is a villain.
Can I use your own words against you and ask, is it the same thing when I asked you why Batman doesn't realize it's his own plan and use the metaphor of or the simile of a painting and stepping back? Is he just so distracted by other parts that he would have no thought that Orpheus would be? So he's just not looking at it.
I mean, it's a fair question, but I think in this case, you know, like he's looking at the whole painting because the painting is Orpheus's body. He's seen somebody that should not be moving like Orpheus, might not have the same vocabulary and vocal inflections that Orpheus has. Like, is Black Mask like a vocal mimic now? Like what are we doing here? Like, there's that. And it's also, you have to look at it in the context of like the disrespect to the character. And this is very disrespectful to the character. And that's before we get into the racism, because this is racist on like many levels.
Yeah, I would say flaming. But people at the time didn't realize this.
I don't remember them focusing on the racism, but I don't think that like, this is going to sound very social justice of me, but like, I don't think in 2004 we were quite as PC as a society to like, you know, recognize that in ourselves. In fact, like kind of that era, we were in a very, very like offensive thing of comedy where like we just like embrace political incorrectness. Like there were shows like Drawn Together and like a million different South Park clones where like the idea was let's be as offensive as possible, like Team America, World Police, and stuff like that. Like we embraced a lot of racism openly.
Forgot about that movie. I've never seen it, but I know enough about it. Yeah.
We should watch it together. I think you would laugh, but like it has not aged well in some places. But like
I know that two puppets have sex.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a puppet sex scene that like that's why I said we should watch together because I think that I could see watching you. I would love to watch you watch the puppet sex because I feel like you laugh.
Sure, yeah.
Only a woman.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, avenue to you, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. You like step back and you wonder like, what were the writers thinking? Was the end like no one had any problem? But were there any people of color on staff at DC Comics at this point in time?
Maybe.
Because the original editor of Birds of Prey, is he still working at this point in time?
I'm not the best person to ask about that timeline. Like, I'll talk about continuity, but like editorial, it's like who the and some of these names I know, like this editor, like I don't know if they're black or white. They're just names in the thing for me.
Yeah, it's just very interesting. So let's just say I was very upset. Can't believe it. If Cass were there, I feel like she would pick up on it since she does know movements of people.
Yeah.
She would immediately.
And again, like Black Mask, he's not like Ra's al Ghul, someone that's been like trained in like all these arts or whatever. Like, he can really mimic someone's like body language and their vocabulary and their vocal inflections, like enough to fool Batman.
And what are the chances that they're the exact same height?
And this feels like a plan that would not. Well, he said like that he modified things, like he did like body padding to like. This is a lot, and he's doing it as like the corpse of the hero is still there, and he's like carrying it around. It's really sick.
It is, yeah. It's one of those situations. I guess you have to suspend your disbelief for the comics in order to keep it going. But yeah, I didn't know it was going to get this bad in this particular story.
And I feel like there's more bad stuff coming in Act 3 if it's as I'm remembering it. Yeah, this is. Cool. It's a rough war game.
Should have stopped after Act 1. I was like, you know what, this isn't so bad. It's fine. There's some problems, but okay.
Here comes racism and misogyny.
Yeah. Well, Black Mask, it's interesting that he prepares this particular trap, but doesn't clean up the scene from Spoiler's presence. That he's shocked that Batman finds some evidence that Spoiler was there, but because it seems like Black Mask is highly intelligent given all of this stuff that's been going down, and he knows where to find Orpheus and all of that, but he doesn't know everything, I guess. He's not Batman. But then that goes to the point of like, how doesn't Batman notice? He notices this ripped shred of Spoiler cape, but he doesn't notice that Black Mask is actually
that one of his enemies is right in front of him.
Yeah, for sure. I did like, tragic, but I did like that Batman is optimistic about Stephanie being alive. I thought that was, a good thing.
It was so callous when Orpheus said, "Oh, her corpse has probably been dumped somewhere."
Yeah. I am still confused about the power. Did it get turned back on because of Tarantula? Is that what we're supposed to assume? Penguin's gone, so okay. So
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew that the power would come back on. That was in my board.
I guess Tarantula did her job then. Any other thoughts on this finale?
Nope. Just the Orpheus stuff. Like, wow.
Yeah. So, I don't even know how to rate this. So I guess, how would you rate Act 2? And we have to, this is hard because we're not only looking at storytelling, but we also have to, I think, consider the problematic elements as well. But do you want to separate and say like storytelling wise, but because of these problematic elements, I'm going to give it a final . Is that what you want to do?
I forgot, do we do out of 5 or out of 10?
Out of 10.
I'm going to say 3 out of 10.
For storytelling.
Yeah, because you can't divorce the storytelling from the problematic elements.
Okay.
It's like you can't divorce it. You have to look at it in the context. Like there is some good stuff like the Atkins and Gordon conversation. That was really good. There's good art, but like the Stephanie torture, the Orpheus, like, and what would the black version of women in refrigerators be? Like, the Orpheus women in refrigerators and the blackface, and those are just way too much for me to give this anything higher than the 3. Like, there are some enjoyable things through all of this, but it's hard to like have that make up for the severe pitfalls.
Might just raise you like a 4. I might raise you a 4.
Okay.
I was thinking of 5 before you started talking. I'm like, wow, yeah, you really got to pull it down. So I'll say a 4 because of some of those good conversations that were had, but some of the conversations that should have been had and weren't had.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really loved that art on that one issue. I really highly recommend looking at that.
The art's been good in this.
Yeah. So yeah, 4 out of 10 Onyx and Orpheus ships is what we'll say.
The ship has sunk.
I know, but I can hold out. I can hold out hope.
And people were really upset because Black Mask like had sex with Honest while dressed up as. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, that's fair. I'm sorry.
And you did that because of Spider-Man, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I just thought I was like
situation and his whatever Michelle.
No, I didn't even have that thought. I was just thinking like, oh, like because you said I said and their ship has sunk, and I was thinking like, oh, let me build off of that thought by like, lying about something that doesn't.
Really be no. I was like, I can't handle having a discussion about rape now after all of this. Oh my gosh. Okay. How to even cleanse a palate. Well, I do have, let's do some listener emails. So there's only one comment on YouTube. Actually, I'm glad you're on here for this because it's my own comment just so I could remember. So first of all, I will say this doesn't involve you, but Grunkle Keith in his story did say that he had to explain to me what a urinal cake was and I didn't know what it was, and that is false. I had known what urinal cakes were. When he went to the bathroom, I asked him if there were urinal cakes in there once he got back, and that's when he explained. I've known about them for a while. I've seen my fair share of urinals. I won't say why. So I just want to defend my honor and my character by saying I know what urinal cakes are, or trough lollies. But the other thing was, so Donovan, our naked friend,
is this public knowledge now that he's naked?
Well, I promoted his Instagram on this show.
Okay.
Because he wants more listeners. I'm sorry. He wants more followers than gay men, ex-girlfriends, me and Harry. I guess apparently you haven't asked to follow.
It's a boundary-ish. And I don't use Instagram that much. It's like, I should tell the podcast the story of, like, this, but I'll tell the podcast the story of how I found out about this page. I get a message from John Wilson saying, "Why is Donovan naked?" And it's just out of context. And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, I need more information than this. And there's multiple Donovan in my life. So I was like, even like going through them.
Yeah.
I'm like going through them mentally, and I'm like, I don't think he's talking about any of the others. And I'm like, and I don't even know why he would. And I was finally like, what? And then he like sent me a link, and I was like, and Donovan and I talk, a lot about things. So I'm like, I didn't know this existed. This is interesting. And when I told Donovan, he was just so amused that like the message I got was, "Why is Donovan naked?" He was like, "What an out of context message."
And what happens to me now is every time I pull up, well, not every time, but frequently when I pull up Instagram, like his naked picture will pop up. That'll be the first thing I'll see. He does like artsy things where there's like lots of chiaroscuro and like shadows and things, but at one point it popped up and it's in his bedroom. It's midday, so like the sun is shining through, and he's like standing up but spread eagle. And like, I mean, everything. His peach, his coconut is there. And so I usually immediately text Harry and I say, Harry, turn on Instagram. And then
Like it's a TV. Turn on Instagram.
how else do you say open it up? Open up Instagram. And then Harry is like, geez. And then we chat about it. But anyways, our naked friend.
Our naked friend.
He really liked our previous episode with you on it. He also responded. So in the second half, you weren't on just because of time constraints for me. And in the Dick Grayson POV, Nightwing, have you read that?
I've not.
Okay, that's fine. But I commented how his back looks like a war zone. And I was very confused because like his back looks like what Batman's back would look like. And Nightwing said that it is as bad as Batman's back. Would you agree with that? And then is that shocking to you? Because he's younger. I would feel like his back should not be as filled with scars as much as Batman, who's been in the game for longer. Do you have any thoughts on
this?
Yeah,
but like Batman only has like, I mean, if we accept the fact that Dick Grayson became Robin during year 3, then that means that like Batman only has 2 years on Dick. And then even then, like Batman's taking his breaks because he was with Julie Madison during that Scott Snyder arc where like my son was cop was Batman. And during Stella just made a heart sign.
Yeah, I do love that ship. I was sad when that ended.
Yeah. I like it because she was his fiance in the Golden Age. I'm like, it always makes me wonder, what if DC never broke them up? Like, would Julie have just been Batman's fiance the way that like Lois was always Superman's? But anyway, and then like Bruce took the break when his back got broken. Obviously, Dick's had his breaks too, but I mean, their time apart is not that like different. So
okay,
I could buy it. And also like Dick was with the Titans and like, you know, fighting like people like Trigon and Deathstroke. So
should if I saw, well, we've seen her naked back, but if I see Barbara's naked back, primarily we're going to see the scar from the exit wound from Joker's bullet. But should it realistically also be similar scarring as badly? Should everyone have that?
I mean, I guess I would have to talk to like a dermatologist about like, is people's skin different? And like, it depends on how well they fight and how often their backs are wounded, or like, can a back get progressively worse, or is there like a wall that gets hit or something? I don't know.
Interesting. Just the war wounds. I guess I also feel like with Dick, he does more acrobatics than Batman does. So I feel like he would dodge more so than bulldoze.
But he was a child for a lot of the time, which actually makes it sound worse. But so like maybe like he was like not as good at dodging things when he was a child.
Yeah.
He had the cape.
I guess Tom Taylor also referenced a gunshot wound that he got. And there was like a reference photo. I can't remember if it was Joker.
He was shot in the head during Tom King.
Gosh. Oh yeah. Well, he was shot when he was a police officer, but also I guess when he earlier, I think it was Joker. I can't remember. Donovan sent me.
Oh man, there's been a few gunshot wounds because the Joker shot him in the shoulder.
Yeah, that's the wound. Yeah,
and
you can see that scar.
The Joker. Yeah, like he didn't aim for Barbara's shoulder, but you know, like he aimed for Dick's shoulder.
And then my only listener email comes from former BFF Sheena regarding my previous episode, because 235 was my interview with Karen Whitfield, which I have a job for you to do at San Diego Comic-Con. So let's see. She says, BFF Stella, my questions for Batgirls number 19 are as follows. Where was Grace hiding that shotgun? Why did Gun Bunny care about the protests? And what was the point of the deep fake, the video there? Overall, it is sad to see this book come to an end, even though I feel like I have been highly critical of it. I really tried to focus more on all the good things as the book went on. It was fun to follow month to month and always seemed to be getting stronger and stronger with each arc. At the end, I can't help but thinking what might happen to Steph. We know Cass is going to be part of the new Birds of Prey lineup, and Babs will probably continue to guest star Nightwing. But do we know where Steph might go after this? I'd really hate for her to disappear. I hope you can interview Clooney and Conrad. I'd love to hear more of their insights and experiences working on this book. Yeah, there are some things I have yet to share. I'll have to share with you off there. I had some insider information. Do you have any thoughts on that? Did you read 19?
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
behind. I'm behind on everything.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So where was Grace hiding that shotgun? Down her pants. No, I don't know. It's a good question. I honestly don't know. Why did Gun Bunny care about that protest? I think that was a similar question because she's a gun for hire. I wasn't really sure. I did not believe her motivations that she would care about that particular city and the back rolls and all of that. So that was very weird. So I don't know. And then what was the point of the deep fake? I thought the point was in order to make it seem like the back rows were locked up so that they could be undercover and work the scene without being seen. Yeah. So hopefully that answers it. But yeah, we'll see. I guess I'll cover Birds of Prey and see what happens. And then Barbara, yeah, Nightwing somewhat in Teen Titans. And as Josh said, like, yeah, she's not going to really have a book. So I wonder what's going to happen. But Steph, I feel like wherever Cass goes, Steph kind of follows. So maybe she'll still appear in like Detective Comics and Batman and things. But not having her own book, we can't say about her characterization. But apparently her characterization is much better in other books rather than in that.
Maybe put her in a team book or something.
Yeah. Okay. The final thing is just literature recommendations. Are you reading anything? I know you do a lot of audiobooks when you have the time.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of time lately because of how chaotic the last month has been with that tragedy that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking of comics that I've read recently, you know, because I do still have to read comics every week for work. I think I mentioned on this podcast before that like I have to read every single Marvel book, which is a lot. But you know, there's some fun stuff in there. And I said I was liking Red Goblin. But no, nothing that's coming to mind right now.
Okay.
I'm kind of having a brain fart, so like I might think of something 9 hours from now and be like,
Okay.
why didn't I say this issue by this person?
I heard that, or I just saw a news item that says the young lady who plays Ms. Marvel is going to be writing a book.
Yeah, Miss Marvel book where Miss Marvel comes back as a mutant, which is
But isn't
we're
Ms.
like,
Marvel dead?
yeah, less than 2 months ago. Like they didn't really leave that long. I mean, it's good that she's coming back because her death was not very culturally sensitive for a lot of reasons.
And not in her own book or Miles'.
Not in her own book, as a supporting character in another book.
Yeah.
And no offense to the writer of the book with what I'm about to say. This isn't anything against him, but like I don't think it's appropriate for the first Muslim female superhero that Marvel has to be killed by a white man writer in a white man's book. It's nothing against Wells.
100.
I had a great interview with him at C2E2. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, no. 100%.
I just, you know.
How's the Spider-Gwen book?
It's a miniseries right now.
Okay.
She doesn't have an ongoing, and it's kind of
Okay.
like Spider-Gwen shadow clones or whatever. Like, or there's like Sinister Six like Gwen clones. It's weird.
Her book,
like the Sand Gwen and Gwenvin the Hunter and Dr. Gwen Octopus.
Okay.
Like,
it's just take a man's tail and give it to a woman and okay.
One of the teenagers saw a picture of like your current look and they said, she looks like Gwen from Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's a compliment. You know, I've always, you know, I shouldn't say always, but I've wanted to get an eyebrow ring. So.
Yeah.
Anywho, okay.
I'll just call you Gwanda.
Gwanda, okay.
Why didn't you come see me, Stella?
So I'm about
Who's
to prattle.
Toby?
Oh my gosh. I'm about to prattle off a bunch of books that I've read from my young adult literature class, and I'll let you know if I recommend them or not. So New Kid by Jerry Craft is a graphic novel. Highly recommend that. I don't know how it's possible, but this was challenged. Yeah, it's very interesting, but I highly recommend that. The Poet X by Elizabeth S. Acevedo. 5 stars out of 5 stars, which I do not often get. So please read that. American Murderer by Gail Jarrow, which is about hookworm and the discovery of hookworm. And I recommend it if only until I get some knowledge about hookworm, but also it's very disturbing to see people with pictures of the hookworms that they have evacuated from their bowels. They're holding them up all clean. I'm like, I don't know why you do that. When You Trap a Tiger by Ty Keller, it was okay. Yeah, I didn't really like how it began. It's really in medias res, but it just starts with a lot of conflict, and then you kind of don't really mellow out from the conflict until the very end. So that was not the best. I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys, which I recommended. It takes place in Romania in 1989, start of the fall of the Iron Curtain. And just, I mean, it was a place that I am not as aware of, or a time period in which I'm not well versed in. So I do recommend that. And it's like Suspicion and Paranoia. It was very good. Aliens Infiltrator by Weston Ochse, which is the prequel to the game that Harry and I frequently play, Aliens Fireteam Elite. So I got to see little Honecker doing all of that business. Punch in the Air by Eva Zaboy and Youssef Salam, which I also highly recommend. Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson, I don't recommend. I have many writing critiques about that. I reread The Oracle Code, which I already was a bit, cool on. I made a book trailer on that, which you can actually go on Batgirl Oracle and see that book trailer for an assignment. So that's why I had to reread it. Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, Racism, and You. It's the remix of Stamped from the Beginning by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. I recommend it, but I personally like the OG better. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Highly recommend this. I think this is better than Piecing Me Together, which they both talk about poverty and people of color. Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older, which is a High Republic novel. It was okay. Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. Recommend. Immigrants from Syria, a young girl and her mother. And then the last book I read is When Stars Are Scattered by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed, which takes place in a refugee camp in Kenya. And that is also a graphic novel. And I've started Firekeeper's Daughter, which is thick, 500 pages. So I'm glad I'm ahead by 2 books. And then I think I have one left, and that'll be the class. So there you go. Lots of things for you to read. If you're interested in my reading list, if that doesn't help you, me just prattling things off, email me and I can email you my syllabus, because each week actually we were given a choice on what to read, with the exception of Stamped. Everyone had to read that. So you have like 20 books or so that you could read through, but yeah, come up with your own opinion. Okay, well, Josue, would you like to pimp your wares, as the people say?
Indeedy. So dc.com/news. As of this recording, I just did a piece about the evolution of Lois and Clark's first meetings, like how they meet for the first time in various continuities, from like the Silver Age, where it's they met at summer camp, or Smallville, where like he was naked in a field and Erica Durance was like wah 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 wah. Or Man of Steel, where he held her down as he carterized her with his heat vision and she screamed in pain. And then, of course, Mario Kidder, like, you got me? Who's got you? That was a fun article to write. Thepopverse.com, I have content on there all the time now. That's been great. And we're about to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Depending on when this is released, if you're at San Diego Comic-Con, I will be there with Donovan. If you see a short girl with us, that's not Stella. That's our friend. This has happened before, where like our friend Kat, who's a great person. You might love having her on the show. She does YouTube too and podcasts, so you two should get together sometime. But it's funny, people like will see Donovan and I together and like a short brunette girl, and they're like, "Oh, it must be Stella." And I'm like, "Not Stella. This is someone else." But if you see us, say hi, message us, give us a protein bar, because we're probably hungry if you see us at Comic-Con. And yeah,
food is gross. Yeah, bring your own food. Do you think Donovan will be naked?
At one point, probably he'll have to be. He can't shower without being naked. Now, if he's naked at the airport, then we're gonna have a problem.
Woof. Yeah, I know. Seriously.
What if he shows up naked to a press room?
I couldn't say what'll happen. I mean, he'll be tackled to the ground. It won't be good. It won't be good because he's a black man getting tackled to the ground. It won't be good.
Naked.
Okay. Yeah, naked. Yeah. Oh, well, per usual, you can send any questions or comments back to oracle@gmail.com. What was the poll we were going to do
Oh,
as we went into Act 3?
trying to remember. It was something about,
Uh-oh.
huh,
I should have written it down or typed it up in my notes.
accessing Bertone memories. I don't remember.
Was it about Leslie? Oh, whose fault do you think it more is? Was it that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Whose fault is gang war? Stephanie or
I
Batman?
need to
Yeah.
type it. I'll type it
Yeah.
here. Whose fault? Whose fault? Okay, so there you go. I guess maybe I'll have a poll closer to the next episode. But if you're watching this or listening, then you can obviously respond to that. And then, yeah, any thoughts? I guess I'd love to hear from people who were reading this at the time, whether you're kind of picking up on the misogyny and the racism that was going down, or that was just something that perhaps the veil had not been dropped from your eyes at that point in time in 2004. Obviously, no shame. We all have growth. I don't think I would have realized that. I mean, I was thinking back because remember in the beginning of Batgirl Oracle, I would have fake ads.
Yeah.
I had a fake ad for Black Mask, like torture devices or something. And I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, now that I know the context, I shouldn't have done that.
Listen.
So as you can see, we all have growth and learning experiences. So if that is something that you have to say, then I wish I'd shame you. Yeah, as long as you've learned and grown. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I've said before that I love Amazing Spider-Man Classics. I had a lot of fun on there, but I've done a lot of stuff on that show that has not aged well.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of unintentional misogyny in some of the Betty Brant bashing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That I regret in retrospect.
Yeah.
It wasn't intentional misogyny, but whether misogyny is intentional or not, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Because you are adding to an energy and a narrative.
Yeah.
When you blame a fictional woman for something that real life white men wrote her to do, you're not putting the blame on the men who wrote the scene and who decided that the woman was going to do this. You are blaming the fictional woman with a passion and vitriolic energy. It was fun podcasting, but all the stuff we did in 2009, 2010 hasn't aged well.
Yeah.
We also told some inappropriate sex jokes during classics as well.
Ooh, interesting. Yes. I think it's important that we recognize that we've grown, or we recognize problematic.
I had a cold a few days ago, so if I'm sniffling and coughing, that's why. Just FYI, listeners and Miss Bowman.
And me. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version and see facial reactions and all of that jazz, little capybara, etc. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And until next time, which will be Act 3 of War Games, what do you have to say?
Fly on, Babs lovers!